What's going on, gang? CJ Curry here, back with another PrizePicks video. Today's video, we're going to be talking about 3 different NBA player props that I've got my eye on. You guys can take these if you want to take them. Whether you tail or whether you fade, that's entirely up to you, but I'm just here reporting what I'm finding. If you're new to the channel and you're not subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a damn penny for you to hit the subscribe button. It's absolutely free. And while you're down there fiddling with the subscribe button, go ahead and hit that like button for me as well. Let's set today's goal of 99.5 likes, meaning we need 100 or more to hit the over. And of course, you know that I'm taking the over because I believe in you guys, that you guys are going to come through for me, just like I'm going to try and come through for you with some of these picks. All right, if you're not playing on PrizePicks, PrizePicks is the site that we're going to be looking at today. PrizePicks is still doing a 100% instant deposit match, so anytime that you put in money for the first time on PrizePicks and you use promo code Curry, they're going to match it dollar for dollar all the way up to $100, making your first entry on PrizePicks a risk-free entry. They're going to bless you with some promo credits. So let's say you put in 20 bucks, they're going to give you 20 bucks, and then you'll have $40 to start your PrizePicks journey. I've left a special link for you down in the description of today's video. Get started playing for PrizePicks. It's daily fantasy made easy. All right, 3 picks, smaller NBA slate. Things are getting kind of hairy in the NBA, meaning there's some teams that really don't have any incentive, nothing to play for. They're kind of out of the playoff race. Maybe they're trying to better their draft position and get a higher draft pick. Then you got some other teams that are still trying to figure out where they want to be in the playoff seeding. And so we've got a mix of different teams in today's 3 picks that we're going to talk about. Let's start with this first one, though. The New Orleans Pelicans really cannot afford to lose. They have to keep the pedal to the metal. They are right now sitting in the last playoff spot. They don't want to end up in the play-in tournament. I don't think anybody wants to deal with the play-in tournament if they don't have to. And so New Orleans has to get a win here because Sacramento is sitting in one of those playoff tournament seeds. And they would probably like to move up out of the playoff or play-in tournament. So I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. They might be too far behind, but in this case, this is going to be a competitive game between the Pelicans and Sacramento Kings. And we're going to go back to our old pal here, Jonas Valanciunas. Valanciunas has been a guy who in the past has had great success against fellow Lithuanian Domantas Sabonis. And we're only going to go first half on Jonas Valanciunas because his second half minutes have been very unreliable, very unstable. We're not sure if Valanciunas will play in the second half or start the second half. There's been many games here down the second half stretch of the NBA season where Larry Nance Jr. has actually started the second half in front of Valanciunas. Now, maybe tonight's a little bit different. You got fellow countrymen going against fellow countrymen, Valanciunas versus Sabonis. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens, but it's a lot more safe to just take the first half only option here on Jonas Valanciunas. Now, we're going to go over to Outlier. Outlier is a fantastic player prop research tool. They got a little bit of everything. They got some, old school roll up your sleeve, get into the deep dive and research the hit rates and the game logs and all the stats and etc. They got that for you. They've also added some plus EV features and functions as well. So I've left a link if you want to check out Outlier down in the description of today's video. But check out this head-to-head. This is first half points, rebounds, and assists. Valanciunas versus the Sacramento Kings over the last couple of seasons. You can see that, again, he tends to get up when he plays against Domantas Sabonis. 18, 17, 21, 13, 16, and 17 first half points, rebounds, and assists. So at 9.5 PRA, I mean, it seems like we're getting a hell of a bargain here. Great value, great deal. Of course, there's really no way to give you any kind of projections for first half only props, but we're just looking at the hit rates here, and Valanciunas has been very solid in head-to-head matchups against the Kings. Hopefully he keeps it going today in what is essentially a must-win game for the Pelicans for them to avoid the play-in tournament. Now, outside of the head-to-head matchups, looking at the last 20 games, you can see that he's done a decent job at hitting the over on the 9.5 first half points, rebounds, and assists. A 60% hit rate, clearing this number in 12 out of his last 20 games. So I'm not too mad at that. You could also look at the points. First half points are set at 5, but for me, I want to avoid the push or tie potential. And so I'm going to go with the points, rebounds, and assists here for the first half at 9.5. I think he makes for a fine over or more option if you're playing on PrizePicks. All right, moving on to the second pick, Fred VanVleet of the Houston Rockets. Houston doesn't really have anything to play for. They've been eliminated from any type of playoff hopes and aspirations, meaning they can't make the play-in tournament, and they definitely cannot make one of the top 6 playoff spots in the Western Conference. Golden State Warriors pretty much put a nail in the Houston Rockets' coffin. But what I've noticed is that Ime Udoka's not giving these guys any time off. No, he's continuing to play his starters a pretty healthy amount of minutes. And maybe it's, good for team building, good for camaraderie, good for setting sort of the tone of the team. Maybe that's what Ime Udoka is trying to do here and use these last few games to kind of build on something for next season. But this season's pretty much a lost cause. But anyway, Fred VanVleet's been doing pretty well. And at 28.5 points, rebounds, and assists, Fred VanVleet makes for a fine plus EV play. We're going to go over to the Daily Grind Fantasy Optimizer. Guys, if you've watched any of my content before, I love this tool. This tool is a must-have tool in your PrizePicks arsenal. Let's take a look at some of the numbers for Fred VanVleet here. He is sitting at 28.5 PRA, 53% chance for him to go over. Now, that's not a 100% chance. I said 53% chance, which means there's still a 47% chance, roughly, that Fred VanVleet may not clear 28.5 PRA. Yes, unfortunately, it's still risk. It's still gambling. But we are getting a 3% edge on what a player prop should be at 50-50, right? The bookmakers, the lines makers, they set these lines to be as close to a 50-50 proposition as possible. So when we get a 3% edge like we are here on Fred VanVleet's 28.5 points, rebounds, and assists, we have to take advantage of the 3% edge in our favor. And so we're going to do just that. If you take a look at FanDuel, they've got him up at 29.5 PRA, one whole PRA higher than where PrizePicks currently has him at 28.5. So I think Fred VanVleet makes for a fine over option on the points, the rebounds, and the assist combo. Now, taking a look at some projections here. I do have projections for Fred VanVleet. If you can't get the PRA at 28.5 because maybe it's been bumped up or taken down on your favorite player prop site, well, there are other options that you can pivot to. But taking a look at the PRA, first and foremost, he's projected for 32.6 points, rebounds, and assists. That's quite a bit higher than his line of 28.5. But once again, if this gets bumped, look at the other ones here on this RotoWire player prop projection dashboard. You've got points and assists that are projecting very favorably. The line's 24.5. He's projected for over 28 points and assists. That's not a bad option. You could also go rebounds and assists. Maybe you don't think he's going to score the ball quite as well. Well, you've got a nice little option here, projected for 14 rebounds and assists. So maybe you're watching this video later in the day and maybe the PRA is up to 29.5 like it is on FanDuel. Don't be afraid to pivot over to the points and assists or the rebounds and assists, or even just the assists at 7.5. They're projecting for nearly 9.5. Everything for Fred VanVleet is projecting over for the most part. Now, I'd like to look at multiple player projections. And in this case, we're going to go over here to another one that I really like to use, which is Action Labs. It's part of the Fantasy Labs package here. 32 projected points, rebounds, and assists for Fred VanVleet. Again, puts him way over the 28.5 numbers. So they're loving some VanVleet. The points and assists, 28.1. Another huge projection for VanVleet. We talked about rebounds and assists as another viable option. 13.8 projected rebounds and assists. And just the assists on their own, he's projected for nearly 10. His line is just 7.5. So all the projections for Fred VanVleet on a couple different player prop projection models are looking very healthy. So anything that you could get your hands on for Fred VanVleet, I'd be leaning toward the more or over. Now, you guys may have seen that Jaylen Brunson's points just got bumped. They were at 28.5. He's now at 29.5. But fear not. I think there's a lot of different ways that you could play some Jaylen Brunson today. Now, I did pull up Jaylen Brunson's points over here on Outlier. You can see over the last 5 games. Games played with the likes of OG Anunoby, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, and Isaiah Hartenstein, that Mr. Brunson's just really been on fire getting buckets when he plays alongside those other teammates. 45 points, 42, 35, 43, and 45. He's facing off against the Boston Celtics. Now, the New York Knicks pretty much locked into a playoff spot at this point. There's no doubt about that. But where's the Knicks going to land here as far as seeding goes? They could go as high as number 2, I think. They can come all the way down to number 7. There's a lot of fluidity there. in the Eastern Conference. And so they really can't afford to take their foot off the gas either. You got the Orlando Magic, Indiana Pacers, Milwaukee Bucks all kind of floating around in that number 2 to number 6 spot, so to speak. So this is a game where the New York Knicks would probably like to win, taking on the Boston Celtics. And the Boston Celtics have a lot of guys tonight that are listed as game time decisions. We're not quite sure who's going to lace them up for the Boston Celtics, but if it's a situation where the Celtics are resting a lot of starters, well, then Brunson's going to have easier matchups and an easier time reaching his points, rebounds, and assists, or whatever prop we decide to land on here. But nonetheless, you can see the hit rates look very good for his points. If you want to take a look at the points and assists, those aren't too shabby either, especially if you look at the last 10 games or so. He's hit the over on his points and assists in 6 out of his last 7 games, so that could be a viable option for you. You can also look at the points, rebounds, and assists, in which he's hit in 4 straight games, and he's also hit in 5 out of his last 7 games. So overall, he's been doing a pretty good job over the last few games here. Now, taking a look at Jaylen Brunson over on the Daily Grind Fantasy Optimizer. Again, if you want to get your hands on this tool and you want to save yourself 25% off of your first month, code Curry is the code you want to use. I've left a link down in the description for you. Taking a look here at some of the top plays for Jaylen Brunson, top EV plays. Well, you got the points, rebounds, and assists, 39.5. Nearly a 53% chance that he clears this number. FanDuel's already got him up at 40.5, so we are getting a point of value if you're taking this pick over on PrizePicks. So you definitely want to jump on that value. You can also go points and rebounds, where he's at 32.5. You got a 52.4% chance that he's going to clear 32.5 points and rebounds. And once again, FanDuel ahead of the pack here. They've already got his line set at 33.5, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see some of these other sports books join in get in line with FanDuel here and end up putting him up at 33.5 points and rebounds. So things look good here for Jaylen Brunson. Now, what about the projections? Because I know you guys love the projections. Let's take a look at them. Whether you're talking PRA at 39.5, where he's projected for 42.6, whether you're talking the PR points and rebounds at 32.5, where he's projected at 35.3, or maybe you're talking rebounds and assists, where he's at 10.5, but projected for over 12, all the Jaylen Brunson props look like over options. Look like we should be thinking about taking the over for Jaylen Brunson today. RotoWire providing us with some fantastic projections for Jaylen Brunson. Now, let's go over here and we'll take a look at a second projection. And in this case, we're looking at, again, Fantasy Labs and Action Labs. Once again, the PRA is just projecting through the roof here. 43.7 projected points, rebounds, and assists. Again, his line is just 39.5 right now on PrizePicks. If you want to go PR, you can go PR. He's projected for 36.4. He's at 32.5 on PrizePicks. And if you want to go rebounds and assists, 10.5 on PrizePicks. This one's a little tighter, projected for just 11.3 rebounds and assists here on Fantasy Labs or Action Labs. So the points have been bumped. So your pivot move for Jaylen Brunson would definitely be PRA. That would be the next one that you would want to jump in line for. But if you can't get that one, you've also got options for PR or RA, rebounds and assists. But what do you guys think? Taking any of these picks, you fading any of these picks, leave a comment down in the comment section below. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that like button, and ring that bell. Turn those notifications on. I'm dropping videos regularly. I don't want you to miss out on any fresh content when it comes straight out the kitchen. Good luck on your picks, plays, and parlays. We'll catch you in the next video real soon. Peace.